I've had a lot of people ask for a little red truck, so let's do that today, but first let's paint a background for it. So I have some yellow and white on my mop brush and just doing some back and forth strokes in my sky from the middle going up, and then I have some light pink and white I dipped right in and moved a couple strokes up my canvas. I'm blending that in where it meets. And then without washing my brush, I'm taking some light blue and going all the way to the top. Since all the colors were on the brush, you'll see some really cool variations just like that. Perfect. And then I'm going to add some clouds. I'm taking the same brush with some white, tilting the handle towards me and bouncing it in an amoeba shape. It's going to blend into your background a little bit because it's still wet, but that's okay. We don't want these to stick out too much. Just make sure they're not perfectly round. And then with a new mop brush, I'm taking some dark green and tan and doing back and forth strokes all the way down to the bottom. There we go. That's a good background. Now, once it's dry, I'm going to take a medium round brush with some tan and nutmeg, and let's give a little road for our little red truck to drive on. I'm doing it kind of lumpy and bumpy. I want it to look like an old dirt road. And then I'm taking a sea sponge with some dark and light green and bouncing in some trees along the horizon. Trees or bushes. We don't want them to be too detailed because we don't want them to take away from the truck, but I'm doing some on either side and different heights, and don't forget to do some down in the front of the road as well at the bottom of the painting. Any bald spots, I would also take a fan brush with some dark green, light bright green, even a little bit of light brown, and pull up, up, up anywhere you want little patches of grass. We're going for a dirt country road with a lot of overgrown sides, grasses and trees and bushes. Add them all over. I even suggest adding the grass over top of the edge of your road a little bit to hide it. You can even take a detail brush and add individual grasses. I like to do this towards the tops of some of my grassy texture from the fan brush, just like that. And I'm going to do that all over. Even some brown grasses make it look like we're still in winter, like dead grass, but all of them together gives it a country feel. Okay, let's paint this truck. I want you to think of a truck in 3 sections. The first section is where the cabin is and the door. So I'm going to do a rectangle where the door is in dark red and fill it in. Use whatever brush you're comfortable with. I'm using a medium round brush. If you need to use a detail brush to get shapes, you can do that as well. But I did the rectangle for the door, and the back section is going to be the trunk. So I'm going to do a longer rectangle coming out from the door. Notice how it starts a little bit shorter. And in the middle of this rectangle at the bottom, I'm doing a half circle and leaving a hole where the tire is going to be. Meet that up to the other rectangle and fill it in. That's going to be your trunk. And then in the front, coming off of that middle rectangle, I'm going to do a curved line at the top, a line straight down in the front, and then another half circle where the tire is going to be. This one's a little bit shorter, and then filling it in as well. That is the front of your truck. Perfect. Okay, and we can't forget the cabin, so in between the first and second section, I'm going to have a tilted line going up to the right, a curved top, and then doing a line straight down. Now, I'm not going to fill this one in completely because that's where the window's going to be, but I am going to make it a little bit thicker on the top and the back. Let's let that dry, and I'm going to fill both of those sections in with a black circle. That's the start to your tires. And then I am going to fill in the windows section with some white, but because I don't want it to be perfectly solid, I am going to add a little bit of green from the background to that as well. And don't forget a window in the front. You wouldn't see the whole thing, so I'm just doing a little sliver of white and then also shading that as well. And then I'm taking a detail brush and outlining the windows. I even did that line straight up and down where the little front rectangle is. And okay, my dark red is dry, so look what I'm doing here. I'm taking some bright red and I'm taking some white. And I'm doing a second coat, but then I'm going back in with a little bit of black and adding some shading, defining the sections a little bit. Around where the tire is, you would have that little hood that goes over top of it as well. So see how I took black there? I shaded that to show the difference. It's up to you how much shading you do, but you do want to have some sort of variation on the different sections. So you can see the door clearly. I'm adding more color to the roof and the back. See how I shaded underneath the window and over top of it as well in the corners. And the white is also giving it a little bit more dimension as well with the red. There's the cover over top of the front tire and some shading. Oh, I'm even going to add a little box shape at the front part where the light is going to be, just like that. Perfect. Now, I'm also going to do some little circles inside the tires in gray with my detail brush. And notice how the white and red dried over top. It looks like a very old red truck. So I'm going back in with some bright red now, and I'm adding a thin coat over top of it. This is going to make it look a little bit newer. I want it to be a shiny red truck, not a really old one. And fix up any lines. I'm going to do a thicker black line underneath the bottom of my truck, outline the door a little bit more. Don't forget bumpers, and I like to outline a little bit those hoods where the tires are. I'm not sure what those are called. I'm going to have to look them up. I know they're bulky, so there would be a little bit more shading there. Don't forget the back tire, and I also like to outline the trunk, the back of the trunk, a little bit on the top of the trunk, and the back of the window. Don't forget a handle so they can get in the truck. And how about a little white oval in the front for a light? And I'm gonna even take some white paint and add some highlight strokes over top of the truck and on the tires as well. Don't worry if you do too much, you can always add red or black over top of them as well. Okay. You could leave it this way, but of course I have to be a little bit extra. I'm adding some roses by just taking some of the red and white and dotting in some circles. And then I'm taking a toothpick and doing some swirls in them to make them look like roses. I did that all over, bigger ones in the front and smaller ones in the back, just like that. And then let's decide what the truck is carrying. It's not Christmas, so it's not going to be a Christmas tree, but how about some tulips? Because we are almost to Easter already. I can't believe it's almost Easter. This year is just flying by. But anyway, I did some green and white stems coming out, just pulled out a couple lines, and then I'm just pressing down and lightly pulling up some red and white for some tulip heads. And I'm even going to add a little bit of white in the tops of them for highlights. From far away, I think I'm going to fix those up then, but let them dry. I'm going to take a detail brush with some bright green, add a couple stems and leaves. All right, and this is bothering me. I went too happy with the roses, so we're going to trim some off. I'm actually going to take a detail brush and add some dark green in the background to add some shading. You can always go back and do shading later, but I think that's going to really frame the truck a little bit better. So I'm just blocking in some sections with some dark green, even adding some stems to the tops of the trees. And then let's fix up these tulips. I added some bright green leaves pulled out over the edge of the truck. I'm adding some white highlights on the outside edges of these tulips, and then I'm going to add another coat of bright red to make them even brighter. These layers are giving them dimension. You just got to keep playing with it. Adding some bright red over the top of that white, and then we're going to add some shading to the bottom with dark red and do some highlights at the top with just a little stroke of white. And there is a tulip shape for you. Very simple. And you can go back in. I'm adding some extra little details, fixing up the road. So funny with the perspective. This actually turned out looking like the tulips were so heavy that the back of the truck is weighted down. But I like it. That's what you call a happy accident. Just keep playing around with it till you get it the way you like. I think this is perfect for a little red truck. It looks like he's bringing the tulips to the Easter gathering. Have fun with it. Let me know how you do.